I want to start with this Abhayarajakumara Sutta. It has a very important message. I think since you have already read the Sutta and understood it quite well, you don't need a great deal of explanation. But I like to draw your attention to two aspects that related to this discourse. You see the background of the discourse, that is Abhayarajakumara went to see Nigantanatha Putta. How many of you know about Nigantanatha Putta? Nigantanatha Putta is one of the 6 eminent teachers in the time of the Buddha. He is described as a heretic, Anyatitya. In Pali, Anyatitya. You can see it in, this word is used very often in Majjhima Nikaya, Samyutta Nikaya and all other Nikayas, referring to him as a sectarian belonging to another sect. He was a leader of sect known as the Nigantas. Niganta, Ganta means not. Ni means no. That means they don't have any knot of defilements. Defilements are tied together and make into a knot, very big knot. He does not have any knot of defilements. In order to prove that, they even do not wear clothes. Because if you wear clothes, you are attached to the cloth. So they remain as they were born. They are called Digambara. Digambara, Dig means directions. Ambara means cloth. Their clothes is all directions. Not the clothes that anybody else wear, but the directions are their clothes. And there is another sect of that same belief, is called Svetambara. Svet means white, Ambara means clothes. They wear white clothes. And therefore there are 2 sects of this belief, this tradition. I mentioned the background of this person and their practices to show how contrary and contradictory their teaching and the practice. They have 4 what is called restraints, called Chatuyama Sangvara. Chatuyama Sangvara. Sangvara means restraint. Chatuyama means 4 places, or 4-fold restraint. 1, he is restrained as regards to all waters. That means they don't drink any cold water, because when they drink cold water, the little tiny living beings in cold water will be killed in their body. Therefore they have to boil water. Now that principle itself is, on the one hand, very contradictory. On the other hand, very problematic. We come to that problem later on. In Upali Sutta, I don't have to go into that now. In Upali Sutta, I think we have Upali Sutta also here? Yes, when you come to Upali Sutta, page Sutta number 56, we will explain that problem. So they say that they don't drink cold water because they kill living beings in cold water. When they boiled, it's all right. Because they are not killed in their body. Second restraint is restraint as regards all evils. Their evil are all physical. That means even if they wash their body, they kill microbes in the body. And therefore they don't wash the body. They don't wash their clothes. Of course, these people don't have to worry about clothes because it is taken care of. But even the body, they don't wash. I mean, this is not something unusual. I remember when I was in Washington, we had a little meditation room. I don't know whether you remember that. Very in the basement. Only hardly 10 people can sit. In one very cold winter day, we had a heater and it was very cozy and comfortable. There was only one door, no window. I was sitting like this and 5-6 people sitting this way and another 5-6 people sitting this way, facing each other. All of a sudden, we heard the door opening. I did not open my eyes. And such a stinky like a skunk walked into the meditation hall. And in a second I saw everybody was, instead of turning this, they turned towards me. And, in a very unpleasant, very contemptuous face, they were meditating. Then we opened, a man walked in. It was this man's smell. At the end of meditation, somehow they managed to stay with so much difficulties. At the end, one of them took him to the library and gave a very big lecture. He said, "I'm a Buddhist. Buddhists don't have to wash their clothes or body." And there was a big quarrel between these two people about Buddhist principle. This man thought this Jaina practice is Buddhist practice. In this 21st last century, it was 20th century, towards the end of the 20th century, this happened in the United States, where everybody is talking about the cleanliness. Therefore, this is not something unusual. Even in the time of the Buddha, it was so. If you go to India today, I don't know how many of you have been there, you will see people rolling on dust, fully naked. They are rolling on dust. This sort of practices were there. So this particular ascetics belong to that sect. Not cleaning, not washing the body. And washing the body, cleaning the body is killing microbes on the armpit and so forth, warm places in the body, they live. So they don't wash. Third principle is all evil has he washed away. That means that is his third qualification to be a holy person, that he has already washed away all his evils by doing this practice. That implies that he has never ever washed his body. Fourth principle, he lives suffused with the senses of all evil held at bay. No more evil comes to him. All he kept away. And because of these four fourfold restraint, he is called a niganta, free from bonds. And gatatta, one whose heart has been in the attainment of his aim. Gata means gone. Gatatta means gone, going to the end, gone to the end. Third is yatatta, that is one whose heart is under command. That means he can control his emotions. Fourth is titatta, one whose heart is fixed. That means no emotion can affect his heart. Although the meaning of these fourfold principles are not very clear, we just have to accept them as given in various sources. Contrary to Indian belief, those days they believed in karma, and he even did not use the word karma, and he believed, Nigantanathaputta is, his previous name is Mahavira, leader of hero, great hero of his tradition. He claimed to be omniscient, to be all-knowing, all-seeing, to have all-encompassing knowledge and vision. He says, whether I walk or stand or sleep or wake, he knows everything that is happening in the whole universe. He said, my knowledge and vision are always and without a break present before me. He might have had a terrible time, because if his entire mind is like a circular mirror, round mirror, that reflects everything in the universe all the time, day and night, whether he sits and stands, walk or lie down, he would not have a 1 second rest, because so many trillions of things are going on in the world among so many beings. But he says his senses are open to all things all the time, and therefore he is omniscient. This report you can see in Majjhima Nikaya and various other texts, Anguttara Nikaya and so forth. So in Majjhima Nikaya, he declares that he does not talk about karma, he talks about danda. And you can see it in Upali Sutta. Danda, in Dhammapada there is a chapter called Danda Vagga. And if you look at the Dhammapada, you can see chapter. Danda is punishment, or danda is a stick. There was a man who always used to carry a stick in his hand, walking stick, and he is known as Dandapani Sarjan. So danda on the one hand means the stick, on the other hand means a punishment. So he talked about danda. Past deeds should be extirpated by severe austerities. Fresh deeds should be avoided by inaction. If you do something now, you commit fresh dandas, fresh actions. And therefore, you are always subject to suffering. By expelling through penance all past misdeeds, and by not committing fresh misdeeds, the future becomes clear and clean. From the destruction of deeds results the destruction of dukkha. This leads to the destruction of Vedana. Thus all dukkha is exhausted and are possessed, passes beyond the existence, beyond experience, and therefore Nigantas did not employ the harm karma. They don't use the word karma, we use the word karma, harm danda, in his teaching. He used instead the word danda. He doesn't use the word karma. And that, according to him, the danda of deed was far more criminal than the dandas of words and minds. This is very important thing in Upali Sutta. You can see that physical deeds are heavier than verbal and mental deeds. That is his content, his belief. And in Upali Sutta you can see the Buddha refuted it, rejected it, and proved to Nigantanatha Buddha or Diga Tapassi and Upali. When we come to that, we will discuss that. According to their belief, the Jain ideas was that the chitta or the mind did not come into bodily acts or into words. The mind is totally separate from physical action. Physical action takes place by itself without anything to do with mind, with the mind. And therefore those physical actions committed has nothing to do with the mind. So, Nigantanatha Buddha, there's a big report on Nigantanatha Buddha. I first want to mention these few things, before we come to our discourse. The first principle is all these first four principles. One is not drinking even cold water, so that they would not hurt tiny microscopic beings in water. Following this principle, the man who was following this principle and thinking that only physical deeds are stronger and more powerful, they did not believe saying something or creating mental anguish in somebody's mind. They don't believe that as anything harmful. That is anything harmful. They thought it is all right to say things or do things in any way they like, because it is not that heavy. The heavy thing is doing something physical. With this attitude, when Abhayarajakumara, being his disciple, went to see Nigantanatha Buddha, Nigantanatha Buddha told Abhayarajakumara to go to the Buddha and ask him questions. It's all right to ask these questions because they are not so long as they are not physical. Since they are only verbal, he can go and ask this question. Since the mental state is not that dangerous, his intention was to hurt the Buddha. Because intention is mental and asking question is verbal. And these two things are all right. Although they practice ahimsa, not killing even tiny microscopic beings physically, but verbally and mentally they can commit anything they want. So, because of this attitude, he asked Abhayarajakumara to go and ask the Buddha question. If the Buddha could not answer them correctly, the Prince Abhaya would become famous. His reputation would spread everywhere. And in Nigantha, the Buddha taught him what kind of questions the prince should ask the Buddha. Because Prince Abhaya himself was a very naive, simplistic person. He did not know the kind of question he should ask the Buddha. So, Nigantha, the Buddha coached him, briefed him, taught him what kind of questions he should ask the Buddha. So, the question is this. You go and ask, would the Tathagata utter a speech that would be unwholesome and disagreeable to others? So, Nigantha Buddha thought that the Buddha would directly answer this question. So he said, if the recluse Gautama, on being asked thus, answers, the Tathagata, he asked the Tathagata, would utter a speech that would be unwelcome and disagreeable to others. Then he should tell him, then Venerable Sir, what is the difference between you and ordinary person? For an ordinary person also would utter speech that would be unwholesome and disagreeable to others. So first you ask this question. If the Buddha answered it positively, then you ask the second question. So he wanted to trap the Buddha. But if the recluse Gautama, on being asked thus, answers, the Tathagata prince would not utter a speech that would be unwholesome and disagreeable to others, then say to him, then Venerable Sir, why have you declared of Devadatta is destined for the state of deprivation? Devadatta is destined for hell. Devadatta will remain in hell for an aeon. Devadatta is incorrigible. Devadatta was angry and displeased with that speech of yours. Now, now let us then go to Devadatta. Who is Devadatta? And why Buddha made this kind of statement, made this kind of pronouncement, why did he pronounce, declared Devadatta will be in deprivation, in hell, suffering for aeons, and he is incorrigible, and so forth? Why did the Buddha say that? Then let us see who Devadatta is. Who is Devadatta is? Anybody who does not know who Devadatta is? You don't know?
He's the Buddha's cousin.
Huh?
The Buddha's cousin.
And
Well, he didn't like the Buddha too much.
yes.
Didn't he make an attempt on his life?
Huh?
Didn't he make an attempt on the Buddha's life?
Right. He did many, many things, not one 2, 3 things, many things. It is better for us to have some perspective of Devadatta's background. The reason for the Buddha to say this, he would not utter words like this without any good, very sound reasons. As you said, yes, he is Supabuddha's son. Supabuddha and Suddhodana were cousins, the brothers. So, his first cousin of Devadatta. And Devadatta also had a sister called Bhaddakachana. Bhaddakachana is another name for Yasodhara. And Yasodhara or Bhaddakachana, Siddhartha married her. Some people call he is the son of Amitodana, but more accepted tradition is Supabuddha's son. After the Buddha's renunciation, Devadatta tried to tempt Bhaddakachana. That is another report. That means Bhaddakachana is his sister. I don't know how true it is. Anyway, his attempt was not to marry Siddhartha Gautama. However, according to Buddhist tradition, Yasodhara and Siddhartha Gautama were practicing perfections in samsara to be husband and wife. And therefore nobody can break that marriage. Nobody can persuade Yasodhara not to marry Siddhartha. So that is already set in their samsaric practice. Even Devadatta tried to persuade her not to marry Siddhartha, she would not listen to her brother. Then of course there was a contest, and Devadatta also came for the contest. Contest was showing their skill in arts. Devadatta was so upset, so angry, jealous of Siddhartha, and Devadatta wanted Siddhartha not to come for the contest in the first place. He wanted to stop him from participating in the contest. In order to prevent him from coming to the contest, what Devadatta did was he killed an elephant and put on the way of Devadatta. So Devadatta could not come in time for the contest. It is said. Huh?
Siddhartha would not come.
Huh?
Siddhartha would not come.
He came, but Devadatta...
So he was trying to
prevent. Devadatta wanted to prevent Siddhartha coming to contest. And therefore Devadatta killed an elephant, put on the way of Siddhartha. And the Siddhartha was so powerful, so strong, he removed the elephant carcass and came for the contest. This is you find in Mahayana teaching. Anyway, so after removing his carcass, Siddhartha came and had the contest, but the Pali commentary says that Devadatta had the strength of 5 elephants. Devadatta was so strong. And Devadatta and Siddhartha, even in their childhood, were fighting with each other. Siddhartha was always peaceful, Devadatta always was a fighter. And it is said that one day Devadatta shot a goose and fell down, so Siddhartha ran and picked him up and nursed his wounds, and then Devadatta came and demanded the bird. Siddhartha said, no, this bird doesn't belong to you. He said, no, I brought him down, therefore it belongs to me. Siddhartha said, what was your purpose of bringing him down? by shooting. He said, I wanted to kill him. Well, Siddhartha said, if you killed him, then the carcass belonged to you. But you did not kill him. I gave him life. Therefore, it belongs to me. So they went to the court, and then king passed the verdict in favor of Siddhartha. So this is how they began to develop their animosity. I mean, Devadatta began to develop his animosity towards Siddhartha. So after the enlightenment, when the Buddha came to Kapilavatthu and started preaching Dhamma to Sakyans, Devadatta also was converted together with his friends Ananda, Bhagu, Kimbala, Bhadya and Anuruddha, and Upali. Upali was their barber. And all these 5 princes, who are the 5? Bhagu, Kimbila, Bhadya, Anuruddha and Ananda. These are the 5 friends. They all were friends. They were all princes. And on the way to see the Buddha, they met Upali. This Upali is different Upali from Upali that we are going to study in the Upali Sutta. Anyway, Upali was their barber, so they invited him also, because barber belonged to low caste, and these princes belonged to high caste, Sakyan caste. In order to make themselves humble, they invited Upali. So according to the story, they asked Upali to receive ordination first, and then others receive ordination later, so that they could pay respect to Upali first, one who belonged to the lower caste. So in order to humble themselves. Anyway, with good intention, they all went and became monks under the Buddha. And then they received full ordination. During the Vassa period, Devadatta practiced meditation so sincerely, honestly, and gained 4 jhanas and supernatural powers, mundane supernatural powers. So he enjoyed great honor and respect as one who has attained supernatural powers. So, meanwhile, Venerable Sariputta also became a monk. Now, because of his supernatural powers, Devadatta thought that he can take over the Buddha's position. And now, Buddha also has already become older. When the Buddha was almost 72 years old, all these problems began in the last 8 years of the Buddha's life. Buddha was 72 years old, and now Devadatta was younger, and he had the supernatural powers. Then he thought of succeeding the Buddha. And in order to succeed the Buddha, he plotted. His plot was that there was a prince called Ajatasattu, King Bimbisara's son, and Devadatta became friendly with King Bimbisara's son, Ajatasattu. To impress Ajatasattu, Devadatta, because of his supernatural powers, assumed a form of a boy and created various types of snakes and wrapped all the snakes around his body, neck and head and so forth, and when Ajatasattu was in his pleasure garden, all of a sudden this Devadatta in a boy's form, which wrapped up all these snakes around his body, appeared on the lap of Ajatasattu. Ajatasattu was stunned and got frightened, opened his eyes, he saw this boy with snakes. And then, as soon as he impressed Ajatasattu, he resumed his own old Devadatta position. And Ajatasattu already was very much impressed with him. And then he began to reveal his plan, his plot to Ajatasattu. So Ajatasattu was so impressed with Devadatta, he began to pour him with gifts, donations. He built a palace, big temple in what you call Gaya Caesar, and sent him lot of donations, food, people, every day to Devadatta. Hundreds of people went and sent all kinds of delicious food to Devadatta, food, whatever he wanted, and increased the followers of Devadatta by Ajatasattu. Ajatasattu was the, what you call, propaganda manager. He propagated Devadatta and said Devadatta is such and such and such and such. And so he recruited people, began to send people to him, and now Devadatta gathered a large crowd around him. Now he became even more proud, arrogant, and more deceptive. By then, he already has lost all his supernatural powers. When you gain supernatural powers, the moment you are engrossed with greed, fame, popularity, and so forth, you lose your supernatural powers. That is the very delicate thing. So one who gains supernatural powers have to be very careful. If you gain it, be careful, don't abuse it. So Devadatta abused it, and he lost all his powers. And then...
Was he older when this happened, or is he still a young man?
Now he's older. He's older. He is close to the Buddha's age. But he's a strong, healthy person. And that is why he wanted to take over the Buddha's position. Now, then he went to the Buddha and wanted to become a leader. Then there was another prince called Kokaliya, and even Tullananda. Tullananda was Bhikkhuni. She also began to follow Devadatta's footsteps. So sometimes later Devadatta went to the Buddha and suggested that the leadership of the order should be handed over to him in view of the Buddha's approaching old age. Now he's almost 72 years old. Buddha scorned the suggestion, saying, not even to Sariputta or Moggallana would I have handed over the order. And what would I then to this vile one to be vomited like spittle? These are the words, commentarial words. I don't know whether Buddha used that kind of language. But anyway, Buddha rejected his request. This incident refers to in Abhayarajakumara Sutta. This is the incident that Niganthanatha Buddha used. These are the words that Niganthanatha Buddha used and asked Abhayarajakumara to go and ask the Buddha whether or not he uttered words unwelcome, unpleasing to others. So in order to connect the incidents, I wanted to tell you the story. And Devadatta got so upset, showed great resentment, and vowed vengeance. Therefore, on the Buddha's suggestions, a proclamation was issued to the Sangha that in anything done by Devadatta in the name of the Buddha, Dhamma and Sangha, none but Devadatta was to be recognized. So, meanwhile, he had already told Ajatasattu, his friend, prince, to kill his father and become a king, and Devadatta wanted to kill the Buddha and become Buddha. Now Ajatasattu, a foolish man, plotted a way to kill his father in a very cruel way, and he killed him, very slowly torturing him. He killed his father. And Devadatta now is trying to kill the Buddha in his own way. And he arranged royal archers, 16 groups, 1, 2, 3, 4 and so forth, 16. That means one was appointed to kill the Buddha, and the two people should kill this man. And then 3 people should kill those 2 people. And 4 people should kill these 3 people.
You're not going to have any witnesses at the end, are you?
That's the plot. Eventually there will not be any witness to the killing. That was Devadatta's plot. These sort of plots are not only new things, but these were there even in the time of the Buddha. So what happened? When they were posted on the way that the Buddha was walking, then Buddha straight away went to the trap and met the first man. And he talked to him so softly, so gently, so kindly, with a lot of compassion, loving friendliness, metta and so forth. This man completely threw away the bow and arrow and surrendered to the Buddha and became Buddha's follower. And Buddha said to him, "Don't go on this road anymore. You go in another direction." So Buddha sent him somewhere else, and Buddha returned to the monastery, and those 2 people waiting for this man could not find him. They got tired and went home, and then the 3 people waited for 2. They got tired and left. So all the 16 people, group of 16, until the 16th group of 16, all of them got tired because they were waiting. Nobody showed up. They all went back. And Devadatta was very upset because his plot failed. Then he thought, this is not going to work. He got an elephant, made him intoxicated, gave him hard liquor. And, elephant without liquor, is very ferocious animal. But when he was intoxicated, he was doubly, triply vicious. And sent on the way to the Buddha. And that day, Buddha tamed this elephant and he went home. And Devadatta was upset. Then he thought, none of these plots is going to work. Then let me kill him myself. And before that, he decided another plot. He went to the Buddha and said, Venerable Sir, now he changed his mind. He wanted to be friendly with the Buddha. As if nothing has happened. He went to the Buddha and said, Venerable Sir, it is wonderful if you lay down rules for your disciples to follow. These 5 principles. What are the 5 principles? He refers to monks, because most of these things are easy for monks to practice. For example, the first one is that monks should dwell all their lives in the forest. Even a single monk can live in the forest alone. And therefore he said, monks should live in the forest all their life. Second, that they should accept no invitation to meals, but live entirely on alms obtained by begging. Third, that they should wear only robes made of discarded rags and accepted no robes made by people with any expensive material. Fourth, that they should dwell at the foot of a tree and not under a roof, not in a house. The fifth, that they should abstain completely from fish and flesh. These are the 5 conditions. They sound very good, isn't it? To live in the forest, live under the foot of a tree, to eat only collected alms food, wear the ragged robe made of pieces of cloth, and be vegetarians all their life, and so forth. And Buddha said, Devadatta, let the bhikkhus decide. If they want to live in forest, let them live in forest. I don't want to lay down rule for them to do that. Because the Buddha himself lived in sometimes very expensive houses. Buddha received food from lay people. Buddha used very expensive robes, and Buddha ate whatever people offered. And therefore Buddha said, let these monks themselves decide what they want to do, what they don't want, so long as they don't break rules. Devadatta got very upset. He said, look, these are wonderful principles. And Buddha rejected them. He is very luxurious, coming from a royal family. He does not want thee, and he talked to newly ordained monks, according to the story, 500 of them. He persuaded them and said, he presented these 5 rules to these 500 newly ordained monks and said, I presented these to the Buddha, and the Buddha rejected. Do you think these are bad rules? Bad principles? Practices? So they all agreed, and with these 500, Devadatta went away. And then he began to give them a talk whole day, and towards evening, Buddha said to Venerable Sariputta and Moggallana, Sariputta, Moggallana, Devadatta is brainwashing these newly ordained bhikkhus. They don't know Dhamma very much. You go and teach them Dhamma. when the Sariputta and Moggallana went, Devadatta saw them coming in, they see, even his disciples, 2 chief disciples are following me. So be comfortable with me, now I am the leader. So when the Sariputta and Moggallana went and sat down, then Devadatta said, "Oh right, Moggallana and Sariputta, welcome. I am little tired, I take a little rest. You continue this Dhamma sermon." So he went to rest. He was working very hard, teaching whole day, and now he is very tired. As soon as he retired, he fell asleep. Then Venerable Sariputta gave them a very beautiful Dhamma talk, and then with all these 500 bhikkhus, he returned to the Buddha. Devadatta woke up, all of them are gone. He was so angry, it is said that he threw up blood, because Devadatta betrayed, what you call Sariputta and Moggallana betrayed him, took away all his disciples back to the Buddha. And therefore, Devadatta decided to kill the Buddha himself. So he went to the Gijjakuta and threw a rock. When the Buddha was sitting under the Gijjakuta in meditation, he hurled a rock which hit another rock and broke a splinter which hit the Buddha's foot and wounded. Now, wounding the Buddha, now Devadatta has committed many offenses. One thing, he, with evil intention, abused his supernatural power. Second thing, he created schism among the Sangha, that is according to Vinaya, second serious offense called Sanghadisesa. Third, he tried to kill the Buddha. Killing the Buddha is one of the 5 major offenses. That's called Pancha Anantariya Kamma. Pancha Anantariya Kamma means killing the mother, killing the father, killing an Arahant, creating schism of the Sangha, and wounding the Buddha. He has committed 2 of these 5 major offenses. He did not kill his mother and father, but he also had become Parajika by asking his friend Devadatta to kill his father. So he has already been Parajika, he is no longer a monk, committing 3. When he committed Parajika, all other next serious offenses can be negligible, because number 1 is the most serious one he has already committed. Most serious one is committed, and others are others are less serious. Anyway, he committed many serious offenses, and therefore they also are not only offenses of breaking rules, but also bad karmas. And therefore, Buddha said, this Devadatta will be born in a woeful state of existence and suffer for eons.
Bhante, was Devadatta the first offender?
Huh?
Was he the first offender as a schismatic?
Killing?
First creating a schism?
Schism, yes.
Was that the first time?
I think so. He may be the first offender, and still he has another offense, asking his friend to kill the father. I think may not be the first offender, because this happened when the Buddha was 72 years old. Prior to that there must have been some. Killing the he's not the first. Killing he may be way down on the line, because prior to that the Chabbagya bhikkhus, killed the followers to die, advising him to die himself. So they are the first offenders of that particular offense. But Devadatta may be the first offender of creating schism in this way and hurting the Buddha. Anyway, Devadatta, according to commentaries, would be he would suffer for a long time in samsara, in hells, and then, however, because of his good karma as a monk before he lost his powers, he practiced. He became monk with a very sincere intention, attained jhanas and so forth, because of those good karmas. This is the beauty of the Buddha's teaching. When you do, no matter how bad karma you commit, your good karma will not become null and void. Sooner or later, when the opportunity arises, good karma also will produce the result. And it is said that Devadatta, in spite of all these things, after suffering, he will become a Pacceka Buddha by the name of Sattisara or Attisara. Anyway, the Devadatta's incidents are mentioned in 34 Jataka stories. 34 Jataka stories. I have their names here. Perhaps you don't need to hear all these names. Even in previous lives he was envious of the Buddha, and there are many such stories. So, in order to put things in perspective, I mentioned these two stories of Nigandhanatha and Devadatta. Why the Buddha said what he said about Devadatta? Because of these things that he has committed. And Nigandhanatha contradicted himself, his own teaching, by advising Abhayarajakumara to go and have a debate with the Buddha. Now, with this background, this information, perhaps we can end this session. It may be this time is not working, something has happened. What is the time now?
18 past 8.
Okay, have a break. I don't mind spending a few more minutes if you have a question right now. If not, we can have a little longer break before lunchtime. Okay?